morning, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us a little bit this morning. Hopefully we get a few more people in here to listen to what we have to say. I think this will be kind of an exciting topic, especially relating it directly back to the growers in the room, as opposed to a lot of the shows we go to that are centered on other folks in the room. I think this is really important, and I'm looking forward to some of the questions that our panel is going to get asked and some of the responses they're going to get. I think it's going to be really informative. So we'll get rolling in it. Marketing is an incredibly subjective topic, right? What it means to me may not mean the same thing to you. And so we want to drill down to that a little bit, and what does organic marketing and how does it matter to everyone? My personal position is that to me it's really understanding the true value of food. I think we've lost that conversation in this country a little bit. Why does what I eat matter, and how does it matter? I think that's incredibly important. So we want to talk and tap into some fundamental strategies and positions about organic and what it's doing today. The goal of this session, and at least in my mind, is not going to tell you what to think, but to try to promote you to think a little bit differently about how we're doing stuff. That's really our goal. So I want to welcome our panelists here, and I'll introduce everybody real quick. From Sprouts Farmers Market, please welcome Rainey Graves. From the CEO and from Happy Dirt in beautiful North Carolina, please welcome Sandy Kronick. And on the end down here, from Viva Tierra, please welcome Chris Forty Ford. So thank you guys for being here today. We appreciate it. So give you a quick frame up really quick, and we're going to turn the panelists loose and let them fire off all their brain power to you guys right now. But just to kind of give you a little understanding where we're at, organic produce dollar sales reached nearly $11.7 billion, up 8.5% from the year prior. Volume sales grew at 5.6%, so it's a little over 4 billion pounds of organic produce in the supply chain. Newly released report from the Organic Trade Association once again pointed out that organic produce is the leading category in organics as a whole. It is still the gateway to new consumers, so we have an audience that's willing to listen and to pay attention. Organics is a category that's driven a lot by morals and values, right? So people are connected at a much deeper level than they do when they go to Costco and buy paper towels, right? It's a much more binding decision. They got out of the car thinking about that purchase. They thought about that purchase at the house, and that's a great customer to have. So the data is out there right now, and interestingly, 42% of the consumers discover produce by sight, not by signage, not by advertising, but by what they see in the store. That's a powerful message. Signage is at 27%. You would think it'd be more, but it's not. You would think ads would have greater value. It's at 24%. So the actual physical product, the appearance of the product in the store matters, and how it's merchandised matters. So I want to dive into everything and get this ball moving, but I wanted to give you at least a little bit of a frame up. So you guys ready to roll? Yeah. That's good. Raina, I'm going to come to you first with this question, and I think this is a great way to open this up, and I think this is the question in my mind that this room wants to get kind of an answer to, and then everybody else please chime in. But how much does price matter today in a margin-driven retail environment?
Hi, everyone. I'll start with that. And I kind of want to pivot that question because you asked me about price. We want, at least at Sprouts, we want to talk less about price and talk more about value. I think value is a way more important word because there's a lot of levers that go into value, and price is one of them. So what are you getting for that price? It's not just we're racing to the bottom, we're trying to get the lowest cost. It's like you said, freshness, it's quality, it's flavor, is it local, where is it grown, how close to the store is it a flavor I can't get anywhere else? So I think all those components play into the value versus just the price. And I think that goes with all the statistics you just said, right? Organic's an attribute that people are looking for. It makes it special, it makes it different, it makes it better for you. So along with that, all the attributes go along with price. So when we talk with suppliers, growers, all that, tell us what the value is and not just the price. I think it's difficult to go and just discuss, how much does this cost? It's what makes you different? What makes it special? How are you going to get me fresher product? What's that quality look like? Can we get efficiencies in transportation? There's just so many things that go into just the value of it that I hate to just kind of limit it down to price. And that's my suggestion is, I still have to hit a margin at Sprouts, but in order to hit that margin, we're considering so many different things than just what we pay at the end of the day.
I appreciate that because I think it leads into what I said earlier, that you are valuing food, right? And I think it's really important that we kind of keep that in the back of our mind because, again, we don't do a great job. What would change if we actually truly did do that, right? Your economy, climate, health, all these things are attributed to that. A robust economy based on agriculture is how this country was built, and it does work. We wouldn't be here if it didn't, right? So I think it's important. Sandy, same question over to you. How much does it matter what you're saying? Flip it up, I think.
Hi. Yeah, it absolutely matters, but I really agree with everything Raina said. It's just, it is amazing that we, in the organic industry, we're in an economy based on values, and being able to connect through those shared values and put that in through your brand is really key. So I'm constantly preaching about a connection-based economy and being able to really put those values into something that the shopper can feel, the people on the store floor can really help represent. But at the end of the day, like it's very, very key to be able to deliver on both quality and pricing. And consistency is the other big piece that I would say that comes along. You know, no one in this industry wants a stock market style of pricing, nor do we want that on quality as well. So there's a ton of payback that comes from consistency on both of those elements that helps build all of our sustainability from a profit perspective as well as all the other elements.
Chris, what do you want to throw on top?
Hi, everyone. Well, it's no secret that most people are super stressed about prices these days, and grocery store prices, you know, get a lot of attention because everybody needs to shop and eat, right? And so there's always this ever expanding kind of overwhelming choices for the consumer. And you know, my limited experience at shopping at Sprouts in particular, because we don't have any around here, although it's my mom's favorite store, is I think you've done a good job at being seasonal and paring down the offerings that people like and being able to, you know, use a different template format that fits the marketplace. So I think that's important. And then value and pricing, you know, they're connected, but value means different things to different people, you know. Sometimes it's just access to food, to healthy food. You know, we've been battling, well, probably for 70 years since World War II, right? The spend that's happened, you know, in the ultra-processed food world, right? And that's why we have to continue to, you know, talk about health, connectivity. We have to tell the story, right? Some of these are coming downstream a bit in some of the other conversation we're going to have. But, yeah, price is super important. It's, you know, but value means different things to different people.
Craig, I'm going to stick with you with us just really quick. I mean, talk a little bit about, you know, do promotions make a difference any longer, right? Because you look at the stat that says that only 24% of consumers are actually being activated to purchase based off promotion. And I can't speak to what that stat was. There's not a stat. I tried to figure it out. What was the stat 10, 15 years ago, right? But what do you think about that? I mean, do promotions matter?
Well, yeah, of course they do. And again, promotions like value mean different things to different people. It doesn't mean necessarily a cheaper price. And, you know, we want to maintain a premium for organic, right? That's very important. Sometimes a promotion is, you know, featuring a seasonal item from a small local grower that, you know, Sandy, you know, that's her model's built off of that, right? Like, you know, a wonderful variety of a certain hard squash and, you know, for Christmas or whatever it is. Or it can be on a bigger scale, you know, when you go to Costco and say, hey, there's my favorite apple, you know, I love these Honeycrisp, and, you know, they were $12.99 and now they're $6.99, right? Like, so that drives consumption, you know, in different ways. So, yeah, there's a lot of different examples out there. You know, there's, you know, farmers markets trying to tell the story. Somewhat about, you know, just a quick, because I think it's relevant to some of the comments that I might make today, is that, you know, I started my career in the early 90s at a small retailer, right? And we were promoting and trying to tell the story then. And the, you know, thing that we have today is technology to reach a bigger, you know, group of people, right? But that storytelling has always existed, and we've always tried to promote. And I think, you know, that can be sampling too, right? Cross-merchandising. there's a lot of ways to drive consumption and interest in a category or even at a store level for the whole department, besides being cheap or cheaper.
Sandy, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think promotions are an incredible opportunity that's mostly unmet in terms of storytelling and connectivity. In addition to a specialty variety, I mean, it's a great opportunity to try something that you're not otherwise going to make room on the shelf for, right? But again, the organic shopper, they care about family farmers, they care about unique varieties and biodiversity, they care about cover crops, and this is all part of the opportunity of storytelling. The problem is when we're telling too many things at the same time, which is just totally overwhelming for everybody. So we have to accept we live in an ADHD society where all of us have a short-term memory, and also we want to be wowed. Like the wow factor is part of that story. So it's a really important time to experiment with what consumers are able to consume from an information standpoint. And also to try new things. I think, that's part of the adventure of organic shoppers is, and, we're coming from a health perspective or we're coming from wanting to support, maintaining family farms or whatever it might be. But at the same time, being able to experiment in the kitchen is something that I think you get from organic shoppers that you don't see as much from conventional shoppers. They want that farmer's market environment. And so, it is an important opportunity to be able to throw some new things at people, but they have to see the value in it or else, they'll see right through it. Yeah.
Raina?
Yeah, and all of what you both are saying, we see in our numbers and what we're doing from a strategy standpoint is that it's not only about price. So I'll give you an example. We do an organic sale at the store where we discount organic product, but we find it less about because it's on sale, it's to get people into organic, right? So it's that, create that excitement, create that awareness, tell that story to get our customers to transition into organic. Maybe they were a conventional buyer and now they're like, oh, it's on sale, we're gonna go try organic. But what we found is once they go, because it was on sale, they stick with it. So our organic penetration grows after we have an organic sale because they'll discover whether it's better tasting, whether they feel like it's healthier for them. They got their foot into the door for organic, and that's what that sale did. So not necessarily the price, but the awareness that comes with a sale is what works from a promotion standpoint, at least for Sprouts, like we have data that backs that up. Also, from a promotion standpoint, huge onto what you were saying is another tactic is getting it into people's mouths from a sampling standpoint. That doesn't cost actual pricing dollars. That costs obviously us funding the product because we're giving away free, all that. But that's another way to spend that money to promote, to get the awareness out. So I think there's always, when we're looking at promotions, it's less about the price that we want to take it down to. It's more about what's the intent of that promotion. Do we want to get people trading up into organic? Do we want them to try a new variety that they haven't tried before? Or do we want them to buy more organic? So if you're an organic shopper, a lot of promotions that work for us are multiples, buy more, save more, BOGO 50s, all that stuff. So it's less about just taking one item and taking it down. That's not as successful for us. They're not looking at individual prices of that item. They're looking at, we're trying to get them to either try it, trade into organic, or buy more. And those are the promotions that work.
Well, organic has a great story to tell. It has since its inception. And there's some great people at this event that have amazing stories to tell and have done some amazing things. And I want to touch on that a little bit. Sandy, I want to throw this at you because I love what you guys are doing, and you have a great story. Your company is a great story. So storyteller, it does matter. And if so, what's the best way to tell your brand story?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think
Well, I try to have great questions. Let's get that on the table.
We knew we could count on you. I think it's so important to remember to take the step to ask the customer, what is the best way for me to supply you with good stories about us? Because in many cases, they're quite siloed in margin and supply chain and things like that, and it just means passing you on to marketing or whatever that might look like for them. But one thing that came up recently is one of the farmers. I work in North Carolina. We work all over the country, but that's where our headquarters is, and we were founded 20-something years ago to help tobacco farmers convert into an emerging crop, which I was 21 years old and thought organic veggies were the way to go. And one of our big sweet potato suppliers reached out recently. It's very typical, and I joke that sweet potatoes are like the gateway drug to other fruits and veggies for tobacco growers, but he always, for decades, has been getting a commodity loan at the beginning of the season to bridge. And this is the first year, because of some really big promotions and deals we did, that he didn't need to get this commodity loan. So in this moment, when I saw this internal messaging from our buying team about this, I immediately wanted to reach out to some of the retailers that we work with. Remembering who our customers are is really key. Like, being able to identify who your customer is, I think, is very tricky for those of us in this this larger distribution realm. But in our case, like, our branding wants to speak to shoppers on the floor. But my customer, the role that I play in the company, is to talk to, like, the heads of the produce team nationally, so that they feel this connection to the success of our farmers. But that's what organic shoppers are looking for. They are looking for, they make the presumption that when they're buying an organic product, they're also supporting a family farm. They're also supporting, hopefully, populating the next generation of farmers and supply chain, good land use values, all of it, high nutrient density. So the stores and the environments that are delivering on vetting for family farm product, and caring about seasonality, caring about diversity of seed stock and things like that, there's a lot of opportunity to really deliver more in being able to kind of leverage what that multitude of factors are for organic shoppers. But for me, being able to just tell this kind of secret little internal memo to somebody to remind them, like, these are the decisions you make when you're thinking about margin or who you're going to run that promotion with. This is the kind of difference it really makes. And so, yeah, that's what I think is such a key opportunity for all of us. And again, it all starts with figuring out who is your shopper, who are you really trying to talk to, and being able to juggle the various different levels of really what that customer looks like.
Rainey, you touched on it a little bit, but the same question to you, if you want to add some more, because I think you kind of framed it up earlier, kind of how you guys do tell stories, but is there something you want to add?
Yeah, I would add that, if at Sprouts we don't just sell produce, even though I'm in produce, is that we're competing for marketing space all the time. Social media stories, social media posts, commercials, all those things, we're competing against all the other areas of the company. And so we need help from the suppliers, from the growers, from the distributors, all that, to tell us what those stories are and help us build that story so that it makes it easier for us to go use that in our marketing. So an easiest is, if you're already building a story for your brand, your farm, whatever that looks like, we can just tag onto it. That's a way easier ask from a retailer than it is, hey, here's my story, can you go build that for me? So I know that's a big undertaking, but that's at least, it helps just being really transparent. It helps us tell why we chose the suppliers and growers we work with, and it helps with our resources too, because we're competing with the same resources across total grocery store. So,
Chris?
Well, simply put, organic farming is essential to environmental and human health, right? So we have a wonderful story to tell. And I will be the first one to tell you that I've kind of put my head in the sand personally on technology, emerging technology, just from a personal standpoint. But I don't think that it's just Millennials and Gen Z generation that are craving transparency. We have the opportunity to provide that transparency now through many different platforms. And I've been pretty impressed with a couple of these ag influencers. They're kind of, I follow them because they're in the world that we sell organic apples. So, that's a space that I, pay a little more attention to. There's these new digital engagement tools that are coming to market, right? Like CMI is another Apple company that, is engaging with the consumer down to a varietal level, right? They can deliver, deliver a story, deliver a coupon, drive consumption on the apple that you prefer, right? And, now since we're on storytelling, this isn't really, it's kind of a story. I don't know if I found them or they found me. It's interesting. There's a company called Rose Los Angeles, and they're a cannabis company, right? And I thought their story is really cool. And I don't know how long they've been around, maybe just recently, but they're basically doing cause marketing for one, but they're supporting these local, organic, regenerative, seasonal flavors. They're doing various things, CBD, THC, et cetera. But the whole model was very unique, I thought. And again, that's just another, and I'm continually encouraged by the increased variety of organic items, right? Not just in fresh produce department, but the whole CPG world as an ingredient. So I see a lot of, different streams for growth. And again, another wonderful way to tell the story when you have, a box of, organic, whatever it is, crackers or something that you can take home versus trying to tell the story standing in front of a display at retail when a consumer makes a decision in like 1.4 seconds because they want to get out of there, right? So anyway, it's a long-winded way to say that, embracing the technology, we can tell the story in a lot greater volume to a lot more people, and I think that's exciting.
Absolutely. So I'm going to throw you all three the same question. You can fight over who gets to go first, second, or third, but it's a two-part question. And first is how do each of you value food? And then how can we better portray values in the food supply that consumers can resonate with and perhaps better understand? We got deep on that one.
I'll start. Well, ironically, the first place I stocked produce when my grandmother was a checker in Baltimore at the grocery store was called Value Food, so it's kind of interesting. So that dates me a bit. We're so fortunate to live in this bubble of, California Central Coast. We have access to wonderful fresh fruit, seafood, humanely raised meat, et cetera, right? That doesn't exist in a lot of places. But the thing that, in terms of value to me is I see through education and getting organics into schools. I think that California in the last 5 years has made a tremendous leap by participating through various stakeholders. I think it was Friends of the Earth, advocacy through local, regional distributors and school systems have quickly grown, organic food into schools. I think the number was $6 million this year. And that's remarkable to me. And so California, and from a governmental level, right, it's the Department of Defense Fresh Fund, has created a successful template, right? So to be able to take that template and replicate it across the country, to me, that is an exciting, way to introduce foods at an early age and then continue to input, not only for that generation to come, which will be consumers in the future, but their families as well. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity there, and that also ties into, how I value food.
I like it.
I love that we're throwing out there stories from our past.
You're good.
I'm not a vegetarian anymore, but when I was 10 years old, I decided to become a vegetarian. And so besides all the obvious ways that I value food, I think it's such an important source of empowerment. Like, we can connect to things we care about. We can support the people we want to support or the environment we want to support, whatever that might be, which is why organic has been such a key factor in the marketplace, because it has the level of transparency and third-party auditing and all of that stuff. Like, real, it comes with all of the history, all of the roots, all the authenticity, and grassroots vibe that makes it actually a source of connection, but also it comes with all the regulation and things that hopefully consumers can really trust. So for me, it's just a massive tool to be able to chase down the kind of world we want to live in, which I think is really important when we think about marketing, that as much as we want to preach to values of health or caring about family farms or whatever that might be, we have to make it inclusive. Building brands around fear, guilt, or shame doesn't help any of our causes anyhow. So making sure that we're being inclusive and cheerful and positive. We're doing this because we're, the foundation of the organic movement is because of things we were choosing, and rather than constantly fighting all of the pesticides, et cetera. It's like, let's stop trying to fight this one chemical because the new chemical is going to be manufactured and released, after 10 years of fighting this one thing. Let's just name exactly what we want, and anyone who wants to voluntarily opt into this system can. And that's what we have to remember all along, no matter how many years or how many billions of dollars we've gotten from the OG days. It's really key to remember, like, we're chasing a vision, and when food can actually be a source of empowerment in that way, like, that's a dream for everyone to be able to value food in that sense.
I love that. Right?
Since we're telling stories, so I feel like I'm spoiled. I grew up in the Bay Area, California, right? So I grew up in this area where we valued food, we valued organic, a lot of healthy fruits and vegetables were available, all the good things, right? So, after growing up and going out in the world, I live in Phoenix now, and now looking at all the studies that's not always the case. Starting from young, which I'm leading to that story, is that how do we make sure that value is instilled all the way from child as they grow up? Because there is that value there, but if we don't teach them, we don't tell that story, that's not going to keep growing. So for example, Sprouts Healthy Foundations, we build gardens in schools, all those things. So I think that's a step in the right direction, but how do we all make sure that we're making a priority to tell that story for every generation, that there is value in food, there's value in organic, there's value in, healthy fruits and vegetables? Because I was in my silo, my California silo, and didn't realize that, we just saw a study that, fruits and vegetables, the general public's only eating that 3 times a week, max. So I know all that, right? Consumption is down, all those things. So we need to build that value. And it takes kind of everyone in this room, everyone in the industry to kind of build that value for food and for organic.
I want to touch on it a little bit more about directly what maybe the values and things that are happening out there today that are actually driving consumer demand, right? So we have things like regenerative. We have this MAHA movement. What's that going to turn itself into? Sustainability, which is a great word. I'm not quite sure exactly how that plays or what it means, but it's a great word that people throw out. So, how are you embracing these type of attributes that are out there? And Rain, I'll start with you, like how you guys are looking at it, because there is a lot of different things out there, and it also causes a lot of confusion, right? I mean, we can get into that a little bit more, and I'm sure I'll touch on it as we get through this question, but confusion is a terrible, terrible marketing tool. It's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, as Sprouts, right, we're a natural, healthy grocer, so we have benefited from this shift towards more conversations around healthy food, not processed, all that. So we are definitely benefiting from this trend that is growing. So I hope that continues because it's good for us as Sprouts, being selfish, but also the industry from an organic standpoint. But from a what's next, and you brought up, regenerative. I mean, I was sitting in that panel in the other room because we're interested in it. We definitely want to. We carry it in our stores today. We definitely want to move in that direction, because if it's about building that next attribute on what's best for health, soil, all those things, we have to be invested in what that looks like and what that means. I think we were having a really healthy conversation right before this but we're treading lightly and being careful because we want to make sure we're doing it right, and we don't want to lose that trust with our customers. So we're carrying items that are certified. It needs to be certified because at least there needs to be something that we can stand behind. But also we're sending our teams that are really looking into what does it mean to be regenerative? What does that look like when they're visiting that supplier or that farm? What is that criteria? So we're not just, we want to jump all in, but we're being very careful about it because we don't want the greenwashing, the losing the trust. So we're really interested in it. We're treading lightly. We're making sure we're doing our due diligence on what that means. But the trend's there. I'm going to tell you that, regenerative in our store, it's growing and it's doing well, even in that really small amount that we carry. So health is trending, regenerative trending, all that going in an upward trajectory.
Sandy?
Yeah, I think you don't have to get too far to see even what's happening with like alcohol consumption. I mean, trending towards health and everyone realizing that, we're kind of making a big decision every time we put something in our bodies. That's a really, very well known concept at this point, like not just for a certain sector. But I think what's really exciting to me when I, am coming from the organic industry is that like the organic industry really can lead in so many new elements, including school food. There's a lot of things that are not rocket science that could absolutely change the health of the country or the sustainability and success for family farms and things like that. And the organic industry should absolutely, compostable PLUs, like this should, there should be a few retailers that say by 2029 or 2040 something, compostable PLUs 100%, and then all the other retailers will follow suit, and we will all have to comply. Like there's some kind of things out there that I feel like are low-hanging fruit, and it's really the organic industry that could and should be leading this movement like we have been all along in many cases, thinking about pollination or whatever that a lot of people know about now, but were very much niche topics many years ago. So yeah, I think that's a very exciting opportunity, like grade 2 utilization, to fight food waste and make healthy food more accessible from a pricing perspective. There's a lot of what I would consider low-hanging fruit, and I think that the organic industry is very well positioned to lead, not just because we are good in these murky topics, but also because the concept of organic is really, it's supposed to have multiplier effects. It's supposed to be the gift that keeps on giving, where like we're making this better for this situation, but it's having a positive impact on several other scenarios as well. Like that is the essence of organic anyways. I think it's the essence of regenerative as well. But yeah, so I think that there's a lot of opportunity for the organic movement and industry to really embrace a lot of these things and continue to push consumers, retailers, processors, et cetera, to be able to like really make some bigger changes and all these things that we know are the values like health and sustainability.
Chris?
There's clearly a lot of polarization that's happening right now in our society, and Maha's like the third rail, in a lot of ways. But what's happened with the current regime with Maha, it's like at least it's elevated the public discussion about food, and that's important. That's a huge opportunity for our industry, right, to come together. The organic industry. We haven't done ourselves any favors over the years by being fragmented, right? Like we need to be united in our message. And when you were talking about the edible PLUs, the same thing. It's like people don't know where their food comes from or what is on their food, right? And so there's this whole world of post-harvest, application products again that people are starting to ask questions about and understand. I'm talking in the conventional world primarily, but they're built on chemicals, fungicides, waxes, things for appearance that don't improve quality, right? So, and a lot of that is there's been a lot of misinformation out there about some of these post-harvest things that they're bad, for whatever reason, because everybody's got their own stake or their own, goal to try to make money in the segment they're in, right? But, I think the biggest benefit and the biggest opportunity for us now is that the public dialogue around food has never been stronger.
Yeah, I like that. I want to come back around on regen for just a second and do a little devil's advocate here, right? And since we're storytelling, I'm closer to my 40th year in this organic deal than I am to my first. So when I started, there was nothing. I got hung up by everybody trying to sell something. But organic is in this country has been elevated as the gold standard, right? It's what we have. And then you have, in looking at regen, and I'm not anti-regen in this statement, but I want to throw it out on the table. You start to create consumer confusion. You start to say that we are better than this now, right? Which ultimately hurts everybody on either side of the conversation. And, you know, this stems from what I would say is a lack of unity from this industry over time to be in a different position than it is today. You know, we were kind of a me industry as opposed to an us industry in a lot of ways. So in thinking about regen and the kind of how I just framed this up, how do we keep organic, which is the consumer is recognized, that label is well recognized, how do we protect that but yet grow it without, you know, sacrificing it? Throw it, anybody.
You know, the USDA Organic seal, which was, you know, formed in 2002, so we're well over 2 decades into this, you know, that's our industry's collective brand of the consumer. And these other third-party certifications, regenerative, fair trade, EFI, they're wonderful and they're highly, you know, trusted, I think, by the consumer. But ultimately, you know, because the trust with the consumer is kind of on par with what they get from, you know, scientists, medical experts, and really hearing from farmers and telling the stories, right? So I think that, you know, it's a great tool for farming. I'm not a farmer, but I think it does risk confusing the consumer, you know. And again, going back to my point about being united around organic, the word organic and the brand, the USA brand, USDA Organic brand. That's our brand. That's our industry's brand. So,
Any other thoughts?
I'll just throw out there that at Organic Week with OTA a few weeks or months ago, meeting with our legislators from North Carolina, and you know, I own the company with a bunch of farmers, so I'm very proud to be able to represent farmers in a multitude of ways. I was shocked at how much the legislative assistants, who are literally focused on agriculture, like that's what they're repping, really had. I just would take a step back and, without any judgment, do you mind just telling me, like, what do you know about organic? What do you think organic is? The lack of a meaningful understanding of what organic is
legit.
Shocking isn't even the right term. It's a big bummer. You know, it's really bad for all of us in the organic industry. So just knowing how much education needs to happen with folks that are not our age and older is really key, because they all kind of grew up with this, you know, with their own understanding or misunderstanding of what that means. And I will say that my limited opinion, you know, in North Carolina, there's obviously a regenerative community there. There's obviously demand happening nationwide. I think that the farmers that I work with, like, I didn't have as much of a hurdle to recruit farmers into organics as probably in the Midwest. I just think that there might be like some feathers ruffled to the conventional industry from the organic movement, and therefore regenerative feels like a little bit of a gateway drug. Like, oh, I could do a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and I could be part of this community. And we all want to feel like we're part of something. And so for that reason, you know, I'm very concerned about the misunderstanding of what regenerative means. But at the same time, you really can, like, limit one spray cycle and qualify possibly. So, you know, for me, the combination of organic and regenerative is absolutely key, because I know that that's not alienating consumers and what they think regenerative means. Yeah, but it is confusing, and, you know, absolutely smells like all natural.
Yeah, right. And again, confusion is a terrible, terrible marketing tool, right? It hurts everybody. Yeah. Say, excuse me, Randy.
Yeah, and I know I brought up regen and that we're looking into it and bringing it in, but I would be 100% transparent is, yeah, there's confusion and we need help. As a retailer, we can't do it alone. We need help on what does the industry say is regen? How can we regulate that? What is the certifying body? How can we tell that story? How do we make sure there's no greenwashing? But the problem is we can't put our head in the sand and say, because of all this confusion, we're not going to look into it, we're not going to carry it, because there is that demand. Though small, it's out there, and that message, that, you know, buzzword, all that is out there. So I think it's going to be a disservice if we don't continue to try to figure this out and to try to lessen the confusion. I do not have the answer on how to do that. I'm going to be very transparent. But I think that's something for everyone to think about, is we can't ignore it. It's coming, but what are we going to do about it?
It's like AI, right? It's like AI. But you make, no doubt. You all make a really good point. I think it goes back to what we kind of started this thing off, right? Like trying to solve this mystery that's out there right now. Like, where are we going to go? If America is being told that, bad is good and good is bad, that's a problem, right? And we have a commodity in an industry that is based on good, trying to do something better. Leave the place we're all on for a very short period of time, make this rock better at the end, right? It's pretty powerful when you think about that. So I appreciate you guys getting into the weeds a little bit and kind of framing up and giving some perspective, I think, back to the growers that, maybe sheds a little bit of light about maybe they thought a little differently about things, or they come out of here thinking that. So I want to throw one final question at the three of you, right, because our time's running out and it's lunchtime for everyone. So if you could just wave your magic wand right now, you get one wish. What would the one wish you would grant to the organic industry? Don't fight for it.
I mean, I can go first. I'm a retailer, so I'm going to ask for two.
Didn't see that one coming, but I can't say no, right?
It's a promotion.
So obviously, I heard in the first session that I was in, Mother Nature, right? So like, if I can grant anything, we obviously, as a retailer that's heavily penetrated in organic, we always have supply issues. We never have enough of what we need. So Mother Nature, one. Two is maybe an easier one is better understanding of what organic is out there from a consumer standpoint, an industry standpoint. What is that story? We still have customers come in and have a completely different view of what organic is versus what it actually is. So I would say the marketing and the message about why is organic important, why is it better, all that, my wish is for everybody to know what that is.
Love that. Sandy?
That is beautiful. This is not my one, but
You can have
tackling
two.
on to Raina's comment, I just want to remind everyone, because it took me a damn long time to realize it, but marketing is not a four-letter word. It's just education and connection. And so, for those of us who are in this industry because we really care about these values, it's not uncommon that we kind of think sales and marketing is a four-letter word. So I just, figuring out how to embrace the fact that every single farmer has a phenomenal story to tell, whether it's something about production or how their, grandparent cooked those broccoli greens or whatever the heck it is. Like that is the marketing that people want to hear. So I guess my magic wand, again, like for us, supply chain is people, not products. And so, the survivability of farmers is key. Not just because I care about it, but also it's like key to being able to have a sustainable business to pass on to the next generation as well. And so this is a real magic wand thing, but as someone who grew up with a military father, I'm used to like, oh, don't forget to ask for the military discount or something like that. And I just think it would be really interesting if we all knew, like, military veterans and students and farmers should be able to get a discount on a hell of a lot of things. Not because it's actually, the money matters, obviously, but really a lot of it is like, how do we live in a society? How can we alter, like move the needle a little bit where everybody knows that farmers are like revered, incredible stewards of our planet and our food, our nutrients. They care for all of us. Like they are needing, we do need to think about the collective. So figuring out like a lot of those little speckles of how to make sure we're helping everybody, especially the younger generation, remember that how important farmers are as stewards of our society.
Chris?
Yeah, organic farming supports human health and equity, really. And, I think the opportunity right now is to, at a policy, at a governmental level, is to continue to, incorporate public feedback and come up with a bipartisan approach at a federal level and include, start with the farmer, right? Like to get out there and tell the story and to advocate for change. Again, we have a captive audience, it's in the media, but, broadly speaking, you can impact most people, through a government, through advocacy. So that's my hope and wish, bipartisan agreement.
I'll throw mine out there. I wish that we fed kids starting in kindergarten and public school right and started planting the seed right there that takes us all the way through the rest of their life, because it solves everything. But we'll just sit up here and keep fighting every day and keep grinding and keep getting this message out there that food matters, and what you do every day in this room matters, and what everybody in this show here matters, and we have to remember that and feel good about that. It's really important. So I don't think we have time for questions. I'm getting the hook behind us, and if you do, fire them off. If not, we can talk afterwards, but I know it's lunchtime as well. So thank you all for your patience and listening and participating.